Hey everybody, welcome back to another LEGO City update. Jordan here. First things first, let's reconnect this raised train track and get that train operational. Okay, we've got some fresh batteries in the train. It's time to test it out. Woof! Is it going to be okay? I think so. Track is pretty rock solid with our custom supports. Fully tiled track as well with the underlying plate. Makes it just rock solid. And a pleasure to run. You know, I had these trains running an entire live stream the other day. 2 hours nearly. So it's pretty awesome. This thing can just cook around the track. You know what? Let's get the ground line running as well. I didn't put fresh batteries in this one though, so it might be running a bit low. Because it was running during the live stream as well. There we go. Sweet! Fully operational. Awesome. It's a good feeling. Oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the way of the train. Did you see that? It just smoked all those vehicles. It was like hitting the ice cream truck and all sorts of stuff there. That's hilarious. But yeah, it's running smoothly and it's good to get them back up and running. Pretty excited. And the raised train line here looks pretty good now. It just sort of swoops around that pillar there with a slight course adjustment. Goes by Town Hall, down the street here toward the Venetian houses, toward the amusement park, and then of course back over here toward Pop Culture Street. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. So the next thing we'll be working on here today is mills plating the new A-frame cabin. As discussed in previous videos, the A-frame cabin is going to be here in the campground, right next to the LEGO Ideas treehouse and the Ninjago mountain. It's going to sit on two 48 by 48 plates, which are currently on my desk, and it'll have a creek running through, a fishing pond, and then a trailhead that leads to the Ninjago mountain. Maybe, if it's doable and looks good, it might have a slight elevation, similar to the treehouse, and also the Winnie the Pooh set. Look at that, we got so many great LEGO Ideas sets in the campground. When the A-frame's here, that'll make 3. Also, thinking about it a little bit further, I think there's the LEGO Ideas Snow White and the Seven Dwarves set coming out. It's like a cottage. That would look really good in the campground as well. And I ordered some of the Bricklink Designer Program sets. Included in those releases was a mountain observatory, and that might look good in this area as well, especially once we get this hill built. First step was to lay out some black plate to represent the pond and also the creek. Now the set doesn't have a huge depth, but when you add these tree modules, it sort of does. But these can be removed. And it might be best to move that one there by the pond because it has the canoe on the base. That allows us to shift the A-frame cabin back on the plate, giving us more space out front. If we keep these awesome trees behind the cabin, they're sort of going to get hidden. So I think that's the best layout, and we are going to add some elevation. Let's tack down these black plates here and start creating the surrounding area. I've started laying some of the underlying bricks, and I've also framed the pond and creek using green 1x bricks. Decided to add some height here. It's going to be 2 bricks tall around the pond, and then 3 bricks tall on the other side of the creek. There's 2 ways to do this. I could plate this all off and then simply place the cabin on top of the plates, or I can actually tack the cabin down to the underlying brick. And of course, that's what I'm going to do. That's how I did the Simpsons house, McAllister's house, Quickie Mart, all that stuff. So the first thing you need to do this is actually remove all the odd shaped plate. So these, for example, used to be underneath the stairs. I replaced it with 4x4s, which are square. And I'll have to do that with the wood cache as well, because then we're not going to have those awkward angles that you have to try and blend into the mills plate. It's very easy just to go through and swap that stuff out though. Now that I've got the cabin tacked down, it's time to use all of my green plate for what feels like the 100th time. The entire mills plate that supports the A-frame cabin is now covered with green plate, and embedded in that mills plate is a spot for a fire pit. I honestly don't know why the A-frame cabin didn't come with a fire pit, because it's got a wood cache out front and also an axe, so it sort of hints at the fact that there should be a fire pit. Sort of strange. Also embedded in the mills plate is a well. And the well actually has depth inset to the plate. Built it using cylinders, quarter round tiles, other sorts of tiles, 1x1 studs. And it's based with the 1x2 modified plates, the rounded ones. Gives it that interesting shape. And look at that, there's even some water on the bottom of the well. It's hard to frame this on the top of the plate just because the holes and gaps are sort of awkward. But I think we've done a pretty good job of framing it with the angle plates. Now this side of the Mills plate is unbuilt and exposed because there's going to have to be some blending there, because that's actually going to go right up against the Ninjago mountain. This side is going to go up against the treehouse, and there's a bunch of open space on the treehouse plate, and we're going to do some blending on that plate. And we've also started adding some water detail here to the creek and pond using some trans blue 1x2 tiles. Sides all blend in there, and also some detail has been added to the fire pit. There are log seats, a little stone fire pit, and then some flames coming out there with some logs within. Pretty basic, but I think it gets the job done there. Jump, little fishy, jump! There we go. We've got the detailed pond. It's not quite done yet. There's still some improvements that have to be made, such as more flora. I want to add a lot more plants. And also I want to just add a little bit more texture to some of these walls here in the pond and also in the creek as well. It's just a little bit more difficult because we're going up 2 or even 3 bricks in some cases. So you need more space, specifically in the creek. We only made it 6 studs wide. So having actually 8 studs? No, 6 studs, I think. So having that space there was important to try and blend that in because I don't have any of the tall slopes other than the ones in dark gray, and I sort of wanted to keep it green. But you can see the creek is more detailed like in the campground. Right, it's got logs that fell over and rushing water and more plants. Eventually I'll have to make it like that there. I've sort of copied the bridge from the campground, just made a little bit wider. Got to mount that in place and then of course add the detail as well. And that actually matches the little dock here that we have on the pond, which is held in place by a bracket, and it's just some of those modified 1x4 bricks. So I've still got some detail work to add here, but it's looking pretty sweet. There's the A-frame cabin placed in its home. Placed in its home. The cabin's placed in its home. There you go. We've still got some work to do in regards to the blending of the plate as well, because this is 2 bricks tall. Going to be really easy to do. Just going to use slopes and bricks and blend it all in. I'll probably remove this sidewalk, make it grass starting maybe there. And then we've got to add a pathway going to Ninjago to the trailhead there. Another path going to the bridge. Not sure if I'm going to mount the bridge there or maybe even on an angle or something like that. Might be pretty neat. And then have some other paths coming through here, or trails, and a trail going up to the front steps of the A-frame. And then this here, it's pretty big, so it doesn't really fit on this plate, but I have to blend all this in as well because once again, it's taller like this plate is. So when I blend it in with bricks, what I'll do is just have like it come out like that. So this can be there, and then I'll have to blend in all of this rock work as well. I'll probably remove the water, modify that so it works better in its position here in our campground. And then back there, I have to do the same thing as well. Probably maybe have it like poke out a little bit, like just unique shape, just so it blends in that hill a little bit better there, and taper it off using slopes and plates. So it's currently Sunday, it's 4 o'clock, and we're actually hosting a family dinner because it's mine and Jose's birthday coming up here, February 7th and February 8th. So I'm going to use that as an excuse as to why I'm not finishing this project today like I originally anticipated. I know, it's a pretty lame excuse, right? Family dinner, what the heck, man? Sunday night, the heck you doing? You should be building Lego, I agree. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'll have to finish this another day here. Just ran out of time, but I think it's looking pretty good. We're going to have to taper it in, add a bunch of trees, add a bunch of flora, add some animals as well, and just sort of make this area look a little bit more cohesive with the paths and trails and all that different stuff. I'm really excited about it. I think the position of it is fabulous, and we did some pretty good work today, got a lot done. It's crazy to think how many parts actually go into these massive mill splits. Like this back one is probably 1,000 pieces, and this one's probably more. Probably, I'd say 2,000 pieces just for mill splitting alone today. Crazy. It's like a massive Lego set, essentially. Everybody, thank you so much for coming on by. Remember, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think of these changes and improvements by commenting below. Farewell.